and we're gonna officially go live here, and we'll get to it. I gotta pull up the chat here so we can see what the folks are saying, and let's do a little Planet Size X-Men post-game report. Hey everybody, I'm certain we're live now. Thanks for joining us here on the live stream. We're gonna get started officially in like 1 minute. This is Dave from Comic Book Herald YouTube channel. I'm joined today by some incredible guests. As we get going here, if you are with us live, if you could please let us know how sound levels and such are coming through. You know, if there's any issues with the sound, let me know, and I will try to do anything that I can to improve things. But otherwise, we will officially get started here in like 2 seconds. All right? Yeah, let's do this. So thanks for joining live. Definitely get in your questions. Be respectful. And the super chat should be available if you like to support the Comic Book Herald YouTube channel and want to talk. Get your question definitely read. I will absolutely get to those. I'm seeing here in the chat, Dave sounds great. I'm taking that as a very personal compliment. Thank you. I appreciate that. Never gets old. And let's get started. Hello and welcome to a very special Krakin Krakoa live post-game report. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. I'm joined today by my two esteemed colleagues who've been on the Krakin Krakoa live streams in the past. We're going to be talking all things Planet Size X-Men, the huge issue that came out today. I've got with us Ernie from Blurred Without Fear and Verno from the Cerebros podcast. Ernie, how are you doing today?
Oh, man. Better now that Planet Size X-Men is here. I feel like I can do anything now.
Absolutely. Verno, how you feeling? How you feeling with today's comics?
I feel equally fantastic, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so we're excited. We're going to be talking all things Planet Size X-Men. Get your questions in here in the chat on the live stream. And again, the super chat is open if you want to really get it read here. But we're going to be talking basically what happened today. So if you haven't read the issue and you don't care about spoilers, cool, you're in the right place. If you do care about spoilers, go read that comic. Highly recommended. Essential to what's going on in X-Men. It was Planet Size, and then it was New Mutants number 19 and X-Corp number 2 were the X-Men issues that came out today. But obviously, we're going to be focused on the big centerpiece of the Hellfire Gala. And I think the first question that I want all of us to address, and I think we kind of got the general tone and the vibes today, which I think is the consensus, is like, all right, this was pretty good. like this is pretty enjoyable. This was a really fun issue, drawn by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Gracia. Like, obviously that is like it's an event comic, like when those creators are involved. But you got Jerry Duggan writing it, and Jerry Duggan is we'll talk a little bit I think about his standing in the X line, but it's not Jonathan Hickman, right? It's not the head of X, so it is different, right? It's not quite on that level necessarily. Verno, let's start with you. Did this issue live up to your expectations? Did it exceed them, or did it fall short? Let's start there.
Well, Dave, my expectations weren't huge because, I don't know, I've been let down quite a bit recently, but it didn't meet my expectations. Pepe Larraz was amazing. I enjoyed the issue. I'm super excited about the future of the X line and what's going to be going on Mars and everything. But I've read it twice now. I read it once yesterday and then once right before this stream, and I wanted to come on here and gush about it. I wanted to be like, oh my God, my mind was blown. I don't want to be negative, but I wasn't blown away, and I was slightly a little bit bored, to be honest with you. It wasn't the most entertaining comic book to me.
Interesting.
But I love the art, and I like where they're going with it.
I can hear that. Ernie, what did you think? Did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed, or did it fall short?
I'll say it exceeded because I literally didn't know what to expect. Like I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna go. It's Planet Size X-Men. I thought they were just joking. I thought they were being facetious.
Yeah.
And then, but now actually having gone back because you're doing research, to try and see how all these things connect. Going back and looking at some of the wording that's been used in like Way of X, X-Force, and various other comics, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I should have seen this coming.
Right.
But with the benefit of hindsight, I could definitely say, had I known then what I know now, yeah, I'd probably been like, oh, okay, this is about what I expected.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a flex. Right. There's some areas where I do feel the comic isn't exactly where it needs to be. I kind of get what Verno's saying here. Like, I love the comic though. But yeah, there's a couple of spots I kind of wish we had gotten just a little bit more out of maybe we get these pages talking about the breaking down various things. I wish we'd have gotten a little bit of that with the Omega level Iraqi mutants, but yeah, that's a small criticism.
Right.
Well, I think you're right though that like I think the Hellfire Gala as a whole, and this is something I've been talking about, it's very patient, and it's patient in a way that honestly it embodies a lot of like this era of X-Men and kind of the Hickman ethos, where it's very giving things out in pieces, giving things out in little bite-sized morsels, whereas voracious readers of X-Men content were like, give me everything. Give me all the big stuff in every moment, and even Planet-Size X-Men, which I think delivers. And I would say, like, my pick on that is it met my expectations, and then surpassed them just enough where I'm very happy with the issue. But Verno, I'm kind of with you in the sense of it being like, it's kind of procedural, it's kind of like,
right.
It's fun to watch in some degree, like just Larraz and Gracia on a creative level depict the Omega level mutants terraforming Mars. But I think from a conceptual, what's happening, why is this a huge moment in the Marvel Universe thing, there's definitely a part of me, especially the first time I read it, where I was like, yeah, but I knew they were going to terraform Mars.
Right.
Like that was telegraphed for months now. And actually, one thing I saw, and I didn't catch this myself, but if you go back and read X-Men number 14, Idol of Araco, the prophecy is the two lands will be split forever under a red moon or something like that, under a red star. And it's like, I love how much they're telling us what's going to happen without telling us what's going to happen. That makes the prediction game, it makes the theory game all very fun. Where I think this slowly but surely did exceed my expectations was I was nowhere near as clear in calling Planet Araco.
Right.
I was not
right.
Like, it was like, okay, I think there's a way this connects. I think, Araco, they need something else other than being on Earth. They need some sort of galactic conquest or whatever it's going to be. But I was not, at no point did I say the words Planet Araco and think that was what it was going to be. And that was very cool to see. That was kind of thrilling. And I think on that level, it really succeeded. I think, just to my overall point to begin with, though, the Hellfire Gala, it's still, because it's this event that spans the entire month, it's still reliant on now Sword number 6, picking up more of those pieces. And, so it's like we never get the full, oh, this is why this rules. But Planet Size is the best info we've gotten and the best development we've seen in the X-Men universe. I mean, literally in 2021, I think. And there's been some really cool stuff, especially in the later Hickman issues. All the stuff with the Vault, all the stuff in issue 20, right? Even just the conversation with Namor, which now I feel like, anytime you can make Namor look like a clown, I'm into it. Like, I'm here for that.
Oh, yeah. No, that's my favorite part of this whole thing so far.
Right.
Is can we get that comic?
Right.
Can we get a Namor, can we get a Hellfire Gala, Namor number 1, just a one shot? I just want to see Namor in his feelings.
Just him strutting through the gala.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I do want some more reaction shots now, which presumably is how how the rest of these tie-ins will fill out. But yeah, no, I think it's very good. I think everyone involved. I think one thing that I'm interested in seeing is as Duggan kind of rolls into this second lieutenant role with Hickman, where he wrote the Marauders that built into the Hellfire Gala. He wrote Planet Size now. He's writing X-Men for the relaunch with Pepe Larraz doing the ongoing. He's the guy as Hickman kind of catches his breath, I think, and builds toward Inferno, which they're teasing as the sequel to Hox Pox, right? But, I definitely have questions about Duggan's creative capabilities by comparison. I think he's often very good. His stuff in the past, I've rarely been like, this is some of my favorite work. You know what I mean? But I think this issue today, he knows how to play with Larraz, and that might be his greatest strength, is you don't have to have a million words on the page when the visuals are Storm creating a planet that can, be hospitable to life. You just don't have to. And I think he gets that very, very well. So I'm excited in that regard.
If I could just expand out what I was saying a little bit. I think I had a chance to watch your video right before I got on, and you said you didn't expect them to get as into the details of terraforming Mars as they did. And
Yeah.
though I enjoyed that, I mean, that was the book. It was, we're going to go and have all these Omega level mutants, and we're going to show you how their powers combined terraform Mars. But it was like, it did that the whole time. There wasn't that twist that I was hoping for, other than the Planet Araco thing, which I did enjoy. So that was, I don't want to sound like I'm down talking it. I just wanted something bigger. You know what I mean? Something planet-sized, possibly.
Yeah, no, I think the reason why for me, I think it worked, and it has nothing to do with the comic itself. It has nothing to do with the comic itself. It's just the fact that a little ways back, I actually sat down with Chris Claremont. He talked about a story like this, like something that he wanted that he wanted for Magneto to do, to just terraform Mars, make his own planet, do his own thing, and say, you know what, we don't need Earth anymore. We got our own stuff up here. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Right.
And it was like seeing that in action, and then also kind of knowing, having read up about this, like actual real world plans, like real world studies about how to do it. And I was just like, wow, they actually took this and they made it into a comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. I'm interested in that too. I've read some stuff on it, watched some videos.
It's the stuff that's happened outside of the comic that I think has enhanced the comic more. Kind of like what Dave was saying, like it's the stuff that's already happened that we already know about, the stuff that's kind of tying into it, the callbacks. That I think is actually what pushed this book over the edge.
Yeah.
And made it a more enjoyable read, at least for me. But yeah, all in all, I will say the actual talk of terraforming, I'm not gonna lie, my eyes glazed over a little. But actually, kind of getting more into what they were actually trying to do, like the nature of it, like how they just, like, you think about the level of firepower they had to do this.
Right.
Like, you got Storm, you got Vulcan, dude, what you got Iceman. Like, you just literally have all these Omega level mutants just sitting here, just like, yeah, we're just gonna do the thing.
Right. Right. And
it's the quickest game of terraforming Mars I've ever seen in my life.
And the coolest thing too for me was that they did need help. Like, I did appreciate that it wasn't like you couldn't just roll out all the Krakoan Omega levels. Like, you had to go to Araco. I mean, Jamie counts as Krakoan, I guess, but he's also in Otherworld. So I did appreciate that. And I think to what both of you are saying too, like, I definitely, the second time I read it, I got out of my head a little bit about it and was like, okay, it's easy to take for granted, like, that maybe, like, some of this stuff, like, we knew they were going to do something with Mars, okay, but how they did it, I think, is very cool. And also, like, you do have to respect and appreciate that, like, yeah, in the history of the Marvel Universe, which is very cosmic and all sorts of crazy things happen, and there's Titanian Eternals on moons of Saturn, and, like, we're accustomed to this in the Marvel Comics verse, but, like, no one straight up claimed Mars before. Like, that hasn't happened. Like,
that's a flex.
That is a flex, absolutely. And it's like they just claimed a planet. They claimed the solar system, really, is what they did. And it's like that level of it, I think, it's all almost just based on implication, within this issue. Like, we're going to see the ramifications of this for months and months and possibly for years, as we now have the potential, at least, to sit in a true reign of X, where mutants are like, we have a mutant space empire, and mutant kind has never operated on the level of the Shi'ar, of the Kree Skrull, of any of these known empires before, and actually seeing them start that and not just play little Earth games, which is most of what Marvel Comics is, that's extremely exciting to me, because that's like, oh yeah, this is new and this is different. And 6 months ago or 7 months ago or whatever, there was no Araco in the consciousness of Marvel Comics to even put on Mars. So, like, there's a newness and a freshness to this that I definitely need to step back and say, this is cool. This allows for very new storytelling, and it's going to lead to some really cool stuff for Marvel's mutants. All right, quick question that I think maybe has an easy answer, but in one of the data pages towards the end of Planet-Size X-Men, they mentioned that I think Planet Araco is the capital of the solar system, and they say something to the effect of, like, galactic councils will meet here, and then something about the Regent of Sol. Okay, so, like, who's going to be the regent of this solar system of where we are? I feel like there's only one answer, but I want to hear from both of you. Who do you think is going to be the Regent of Sol? Verno, we can start with you.
It kind of seemed like they were implying Storm, did it not? Were you guys getting that vibe? I feel like the narration while they were saying that, you're seeing Storm show up and walk into this big building, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, I think it's going to be Storm.
I think
hope
it's Storm.
So. That would be awesome.
That's kind of where my head was at too. Like, not initially, but like kind of after thinking about it, I was like, oh man, it probably is going to be Storm. Like, honestly, my head was kind of like saying, and like, hey, would it be Apocalypse? Like, yeah, we know Apocalypse is coming back, but yeah, Storm makes like kind of the most sense because even towards the end of the comic, you could tell like she was in tune with the planet.
Yeah.
Like, they're talking about, oh, it's raining. She's like, oh, I didn't do that.
Right.
Like, the planet is crying tears of joy. And I was like, that's actually a really beautiful line.
I'm disappointed Apocalypse didn't show up in this issue. Now that I think about it, it hadn't really dawned on me. We got a nice statue of him that was pretty dope. But yeah, it would have been nice to get a big blue man pop up in this.
It is interesting to see. I think one of my favorite things about the setup here is, so first off, I agree with both of you. I think for sure it's going to be Storm. We've been seeing it teased that, she's kind of bored with Earth in a way. And like, she's setting her sights to the stars. What does that mean? Pretty clearly it's going to be some sort of relationship with Sword and becoming the Regent. I think like mutants don't have to stop here is the other thing, like I think probably we'll get a pause, but it's also like, okay, so you have the ability to now make planets hospitable for mutant kind. Like Storm could continue this path, like basically like Silver Surfering through the galaxy, finding what are the next mutant planets. Like that's an option, which could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm also really interested in seeing like where do we go from here with the Iraqi mutants? What are they going to be doing? Where do we go from here with mutant relationships with other space empires? With Sword diplomacy and all that. And then where do we go from here with like the fact that like mutant kind hasn't like owned Earth. Like there's still a lot of problems that they have there. There's still Orcus, there's still Xeno, there's still all these very like long-standing human versus mutant prejudice kind of problems that they have. So what are both of your thoughts in terms of where do we go from here? Like what does this most set up the potential for? Ernie, let's start with you.
I feel like eventually at some point the other shoe is going to drop with the Rocco, because we got some things in this comic that little subtle hints that they have no intention of changing who they are or anything like that. There's certain little lines that come up. Yeah, and it does make me wonder, like, if eventually at some point, are they going to get to a point where they feel like they don't need the Krakoan mutants,
right?
Because they already kind of had a low opinion of them in the first place. With how they felt they were too soft, or they had never fought for anything, or anything like that. And they're a warrior. They're kind of, I guess, in a way, what we were told, like the Chimeras were, like in Powers of 10.
Yeah,
where it was like, hey, they're a warrior nation now. That's kind of what they remind me of. But I feel like, something's going to go down with the Iraqi. I definitely feel like this is not going to be something that's going to go unchallenged by the Verendi or Xeno or Orcus or anyone else for that matter. Because when you make big grandstanding acts like this, you're gonna piss somebody off, and it's and we already know that these different groups are planning things. I think what was it in Marauders 21, we saw Ruben Brousseau and the Verendi, Natalia Volek, they were all coming together and conspiring over some stuff, and we don't even know what they're planning,
right?
But we know that they know something, and they are pretty much like they're ready to strike any moment. And Xeno has already shown that they really don't care.
Right.
Like these guys are out here collecting DNA and just stuff is everywhere. There's all kinds of little loose threads in this entire arc. Like no one's even talking about the fact that there's like a whole facility where there's like a decommissioned Nimrod just chilling.
Right.
In one of the Wolverine issues, right. Like, there's all sorts of problems out there. Like there's no end of terrible humans. I'm still not even entirely sure about Dolores from X-Death, because she seemed so nice at one point, and then she kind of seemed kind of evil, and then she seemed nice again, and I don't trust her.
Yeah. She looks so different depending on the artist that draws her too.
Yeah.
I'll have to be like, is that her? But yeah.
Unless there's a memo, I'm never sure if it's Dolores.
Yeah.
At this point. But I am skeptical as well. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think there was a lot of talk in this issue of like basically like, oh, Arakko, like you want to conquer everything. Like what if and Magneto's like kind of playing word games with them. He's like, yeah, but what if instead of conquering, we conquered Mars? And like that might work for like moving them there, but I think long term, like again, like they're not just going to be content to be like, oh cool, we're here now. Like I don't know, I kind of was like, I don't know if I fully buy that they're not eventually going to want more in terms of conquest and in terms of like moving out there. I think in the short term maybe yes, because like they've lived a hell life in a hell dimension for generations, right? So it's like maybe this actually would be exactly what they need. But I'll be curious to see, you know, eventually like exactly what that relationship is, because it's not a super clear allyship between Krakoa and Arakko. You know, they are very separate mindsets, very separate desires. I think too, the one piece that you mentioned there too, Ernie, is like how much of a celebration this issue is despite all of the threats. That's actually really refreshing. You know, I think in a lot of ways, I think of like House of X #6, right? The end of the House and Power series, where it's like, yeah, we're going to take a victory lap. We're going to have fireworks and we're going to celebrate these awesome moments and developments for mutant kind in order to make it clear to readers that like, this is a moment, kind of like that quote from Emma Frost, like this is a moment. You don't want to miss this. I think with Terraforming Mars too, it's like, instead of undercutting that with the plots of Verendi or the plots of Xeno or whoever, it's like just have the moment, celebrate it, and then we know the threats are there. The threats will come. But I actually do very much enjoy and appreciate that. We do have a question here in the super chat that I want to get to that you guys both just mentioned, which is that with Arakko and Mars, all the mutants in the other dimension with Apocalypse, will they join them? So this is something we saw teased in Sinister Secrets in the last issue. Was basically it felt the most to me like Hickman tweeting almost, you know, it felt the most just like a direct from the creator to the fans comment, which was effectively like, I haven't forgotten about Apocalypse, but it's going to be a minute before you see him. I don't expect we'll see Apocalypse on Mars anytime soon, just because of the nature of the way that Sinister Secret was worded. But what do you guys think for the future of Apocalypse?
Oh man,
I don't know why he wouldn't be on Mars, right? I mean, unless I got the two experts here with me. He went to Arakko, and all of Arakko came to Mars. So I don't know, unless he's got unfinished business back there.
Yeah. So this is the annoyingly complex geography of Arakko, which is that Arakko is an island like Krakoa, right? And it was in another dimension known as Amenth. So Apocalypse is still trapped in Amenth. I don't totally get why he's trapped. I'll admit that part. I think kind of the end of Ten of Swords was like Apocalypse and Genesis have to go to Amenth. They have to seal that off, whatever that means, to keep Genesis or to keep the Annihilation Helm, you know, trapped there because Apocalypse takes that on. So to get them out of that realm, that will happen. I'm kind of guessing that's endgame type stuff. You know, I'm kind of guessing that's the final story. They finally figure out a way to do that in order to bring in the cavalry from Amenth. But in the meantime, it's like they're trapped, I think, and they can't get to Arakko. Like that's my general understanding.
Okay, I'm thinking post Inferno.
Yeah,
like not immediately, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was after Inferno. Just based on the situation. I feel like Apocalypse kind of needed to take a knee, even if he's not actually taking a knee.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like I miss him in these stories, but at the same time, everything Ten of Swords was so Apocalypse heavy that it is kind of, it's appropriate. There are a lot of mutants to talk about. Like there are a lot of mutants to give story and to give time to. And like, think about like we really haven't had Professor X content. He's like omnipresent, but at the same time, it's like, what is the Professor X story? And there barely is one. You know, we got a great Magneto showcase today. I think like it feels like this is going to be a good year for Magneto, both with what's going on here and with the trial of Magneto coming. So let's talk about that, because that's another question that I've been getting from listeners, and it was something that honestly I would not even be thinking about if it was just the Hellfire Gala and just Planet Size X-Men. I would have completely forgotten there was a trial of Magneto. But a number of people keep asking, and they're like, "What are your theories for?" Because this issue in particular feels like, I mean, it's a victory lap for mutant kind, but it's also like, what a flex for Magneto. Like, this is his plan. He's the one who goes and gets all the pieces. He makes the diplomacy work with Arakko and Iska the Unbeaten and the Great Ring there. He made this happen, essentially. And it seems to be a great thing. So what needs to happen to have a quote-unquote trial of Magneto, however literal that's going to take shape, which is the big event that's coming. Do you guys have any theories or thoughts based on what happened today on what's next for Magneto, where that storyline makes sense? And I guess I'll just get the ball rolling with, like, I thought one of the coolest twists initially was going to be, like, if the trial wasn't a literal trial, but it was basically a testing of Magneto, and it was a testing of Magneto at the hands of the Arakko mutants. Because that's something we see Summoner say in Ten of Swords when he's playing that game with Rockslide. He's like, he's like, another word for this in our culture is a trial. So it's like that language has been used before.
That's a good catch.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so they could put Mags on trial to, like, prove himself, but now it kind of feels like, well, did he already? I don't know. I'm like, did he already make that connection in getting them to Mars? Like, what more does he need to prove to them? I don't know. I still like the idea, but I'm not sure how it plays out.
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't think this trial of Magneto thing is going to be exactly what people expect it to be. Honestly, okay, you know what? With the benefit of hindsight now and kind of thinking back on it, if there is one thing I did feel this issue was lacking, I do remember feeling like I read somewhere that, we were going to get some kind of tease as to why he's, quotey fingers on trial in the first place in this issue.
Yeah.
But I feel like nothing happened that was worthy of putting someone on trial, whether it's in a figurative manner or in an actual, like, literal manner. Like, I mean, I was like, is somebody, because they made it very clear, like I feel like something was supposed to happen. I feel like it got either, or maybe I misread it, or I don't know.
I think it's an X Factor, that the next X Factor issue is when something is supposed to happen involving the trial of Magneto. It's whatever happens that's going to set that in motion. I think from the solicits of X Factor, that's where it's supposed to happen.
Okay.
And then they even say it's going to be like the X Factor squad that is investigating I think it's a murder. I mean, they're pretty much laying it out. There's like a chalk line, a dead body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't remember if that's actually been said or if I just, like, theorized that, but definitely I have a murder mystery set up in X Factor in my head. It's Leigh Williams writing that. She's going to be writing the trial. So, like, those pieces connect, and that makes sense. I see, that's tricky too, because so let's say it is a murder mystery, which would be kind of fun. If it's like, I don't, that alone is like, well, who could it be that would matter? like that Magneto would care enough to be put on trial for, because, like, there is a level of, like, complacency that he has to, like, agree to be put on trial. Like, you're not going to get Magneto to, like, accept that. He's an omega level mutant. He just turned he just brought all the iron needed to make Mars hospitable to 16 million mutants. Like, dude's got power. So I mean, I don't know. I'm curious who that could be that would, like, really matter. It would be somebody like a Namor or like a Professor X. I feel like, if it's a human, it's like the individual doesn't matter so much as just the Krakoan law then at that point. But I don't know. That feels simplistic. There's got to be more mystery to it. I mean, the cool theory that I know a lot of people have been talking about is if it is a murder mystery, it's probably that Magneto's framed and it's probably by Mystique. Like, that would tie the most cleanly into Inferno. Basically, like, if she starts enacting now some plans to strike out at Magneto and Professor X for just being the coldest, cruelest possible people to her, essentially. So that I would like, I suppose. But again, that also feels predictable in a way that, like, a shape-shifting mystery shouldn't. So I don't know. It could go a lot of ways. It's an interesting question, frankly.
Yeah, I hope it's the murder mystery just because it sounds fun. I enjoy a good murder mystery. We haven't had anything like that in the Krakoa era. I think it would be fun.
And there's a real challenge to pulling that off in a way that, to doing a Knives Out, to making it where it's like there's a challenge to like, okay, how do we tell this story in a way that is extremely engaging, regardless of the whodunit of it all, which a lot of times can be kind of the Marvel's downfall with stuff where they're like, who's the next Hulk? Who's the next Thor? And they can drag it out for, a gazillion issues or whatever. And it's like, actually, that wasn't the interesting question. Like you missed what was actually cool about the story. So, all right, cool. So we'll look for obviously what's coming in Theory Magneto next. Let's see. We got some other questions from people. Do we think that in hindsight, how important was Messiah Complex for this era of X-Men? Hope is putting in the most work of her life. That's a good question. I really do hope that eventually we get that sort of Moira series where we get flashbacks to these moments in mutant history. I would kind of like nothing more than to see, like, how did that fit into the plan? Has that happened in all of her lifelines? Is that new to Life 10? Questions like that I find fascinating. I think Messiah Complex, even take it back even a step further, so Messiah Complex, for people who don't know, is like a 2007, 2008 X-Men event. And it's in the wake of the very famous No More Mutants from Wanda, okay, from House of M, where mutant kind, there's like 198 of them that survive basically that are still mutants. Yeah. Take it back even a step further. Did Moira plan for House of M? Is that intended? Is that a part of other lifelines? Questions like that, I'm like obsessed with. Like I would just love, even if it's just one Marvel event time stream of like yes or no, Moira allowed for this, Moira planned this. Like that's all I need. But I would love that. I don't know. What do you guys think about any relevance of Messiah Complex in this era, or even just what's going on with Hope?
I can definitely say I agree with you. I like when you have time shenanigans. Especially when we have players on the table who kind of already know what's going to happen. We've seen this with Bishop before, when he's completely omitted the fact that he knew that House of M was going to happen, or that the whole thing in New X-Men with the mutant massacre, or not mutant massacre, but the genocide in Genosha was going to happen. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I kind of want to see if Moira has something to say about it. If it were me, if it was me that had the money to make this happen, if I was the big wig, so to speak, at Marvel, man, we would have had a book at least by now, or somewhere close where like the book of Moira X, just going through and just hitting all the high spots. But I definitely feel like it, like all of this, not just, I don't think just Messiah Complex, but this actually kind of makes a lot of other X-Men events kind of hit different.
Yeah.
Like it's like everything, like the entire series. Like you think about Ten of Swords, and like even though I know for a lot of us Ten of Swords didn't quite stick the landing the way or many other things for that matter, the way it should have, but the fact that they literally repopulated by the end of Ten of Swords, they literally had gained back all the numbers of mutants that they lost throughout, going all the way back to Grant Morrison's run. With X-Men, it's one of those things like, oh yeah, they did do that. It's like, oh man, they actually, like, slowly but surely, a lot of the biggest issues that the X-Men have faced over the last, God, I feel old saying this, 2 decades or more, a lot of it's been undone. Or they've made up for it in some way.
Right.
And I feel like if you go back and reread some of those storylines, I guarantee you, with the benefit of everything House of X and up to now, I feel like you would definitely have like a different opinion about whatever it was that that event was, for better or worse.
Right.
Mind you, but definitely Messiah Complex hits different now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hope is out here. I used to be very down on Hope because I'm a Sync guy. But yeah, I totally get it. I get it. I get her now. She's out here putting in the work. I'll give her credit.
It's got me thinking. You guys tell me what you would think of this, but with time travel stories being such a huge part of X-Men lore and the history of X-Men, I would love to see, especially Hickman, do one, but like a big time travel story in the current era, I think would be so much fun. I love those types of stories, and I would love to see Hickman write a time travel story at some point.
Yeah, so I teased that out a little bit today in the Krakin Krakoa I did on Planet Size, just in the sense of, so like if Moira's, so like right now, and I think this ties in what you were saying too, Ernie, is like right now in Planet Size, like again, this is a victory lap, this is a celebration. It feels like mutant kind is succeeding. Like it feels like the plan is in really good hands, honestly, in a lot of ways. Now we know that, like, yes, a Nimrod is back online. Like there's danger, there's like serious problems with this, but at the same time, like it feels like, okay, they've got the mutant space empire is off to this really interesting start. Like there's big picture, like for us to know if Life 10 is a success, the metric actually isn't like short term, like even if they created the mutant space empire and they were as big as the Shi'ar or bigger or whatever, right? We wouldn't actually know to say like, well, that's a temporary success, but actually the big picture House of X Powers of 10 success scale is, did mutant kind survive 1,000 years into the future, right? Into these like lifelines where Moira's had, like in Life 6, where she makes it, you know, to the end of time kind of thing, right? These like basically they're going for eternal survival of mutant kind, and in order to have an answer to that that is significant, you have to have a time travel story. Like you have to have your Powers of 10, Days of Future Past, what does the future look like kind of stories, and we haven't touched those in this era of X-Men. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the slow play now. I've come to terms with it. If we're gonna go for years and years, everyone looking for the fall of X and for the end of Hickman on these books. Honestly, I think when this started, I thought, okay, 5 years. I thought, you know, like we got Life on Mars, we got 5 years. I'm going all David Bowie. What's the album? Ziggy Stardust right now? Yeah. But like I thought 5 years. Okay, now after today, honestly, I'm kind of like, this could go for 10 years. This could, like, if Hickman wanted to just sit in this, he could. I don't know that he's that kind of creator. He doesn't seem like it. He seems like,
he doesn't seem like it to me.
No, he seems like he's going to want to get to the ending, and fair enough, right? But in terms of just the amount of story, but to get to a point where we even have the information to know, like, is Life 10 a success, or do we need to hit that Moira reset button? It has to be one of two things. It has to be we have knowledge of the future to pass, and something here messed up, where now mutants aren't going to survive, or just a very simple, like, yeah, everything's on fire and Nimrod's here, and we really need to reset your lifeline, Moira. Right? Like those to me are like the two ways that we know whether or not we hit the reset button. So I think you're both onto something with the time travel piece of it. I mean, that's still a piece to me that, like, the Bishop and the Cable and their role as protectors of timelines, like, how do they fit into this? They're not precogs. They aren't under those guidelines. So how do we consider them?
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because that is actually something I found really weird about the whole rules regarding, or the secret rules that nobody else knows about except for 3 people. Regarding resurrection, like no precogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Then why resurrect people like Bishop or Cable?
Yeah.
I would imagine they would know something.
Never thought about that. That's a good point, Ernie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, I mean, they come from a future that is well beyond where we're at. If anyone would know, yeah, if Bishop and Cable both had like prior knowledge of all these other things, all these other events, then yeah, House of X seems like it would be a pretty weird gap to suddenly have amnesia.
This is one of those things I almost wish you wouldn't have said, because now I'm going to spend the rest of the night fucking thinking about that. It's like,
so no time travelers, no precogs, no time travelers, no clones, no alternate reality versions of characters that are all. So there you go. We've added another one to the list.
And I wonder if the end of Doug and Noto's run on Cable, because like the excuse with Cable right now would be like, he's a boy, like he's a lad, like Cable lad doesn't have the capabilities to answer these questions, you know? When you bring the old man back, which is inevitably how that series is going to end, I suspect, does he have a lot more questions? Is that type of character going to be a lot more like what is this? Like looking around like, wait, what is going on? I didn't see this in any of the time streams. Like have more questions and push on that a little bit more. I think that would be interesting because Bishop, I mean, that's a character that's severely underwritten. I think we really don't get any of what Bishop thinks about what's happening right now. He's just like a role player in Marauders. I would love some of his thoughts because I don't know. I don't like to get into the whole like, oh, Professor X and Moira and that they definitely, are messing with people's heads or whatever, type theories. But with Bishop, it just feels like he's way too content. Why is he so content with all of this?
Yeah.
Like his history is not, is the opposite of that. It is reacting very intensely against things that mess with the time stream. So I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions with him that I don't know if that's gonna be a focus or not. I feel like in some ways the creators are kind of just like, hey, can we not talk about time travel? Like it's a lot easier not to.
Well, like can we get a what was it, the life and times of Lucas Bishop Part 2, where we just talk about everything he thinks about what's happening, like we just kind of get his take. I just want his side of the story. That's all I really want.
Yeah, right. No, I think that
I actually find it kind of surprising he's never gotten any real character development outside of the whole Kate Pride murder mystery, which wasn't really a mystery because we knew who did it.
Right. Well, there's no one getting any character development over in Marauders, which is why I'm so hesitant about Duggan taking over X-Men. It's the guy that's got this team that has never made it feel like a team is now taking over the main team. It's like,
that's interesting.
That is a concern of mine. That is actually a concern.
I mean, I like what he's done with Kate. I'll give him credit on Kate. I think Kate Pride is in a different place now in this era specifically. I think he's done a decent job with Emma's role. I don't know that Emma's developed so much as just fulfilled what she is, essentially from
she's one of those characters. It's hard to continue to develop her because she was a villain. She's already had she's like Gambit. I use him as an example all the time. She's been redeemed. Where do you go with her from here?
Right.
She's a totally different character than she was.
I do think Emma's set up for some very interesting things. Go ahead, Ernie. You were going to say something.
Oh, no. I was going to say, outside of character development, I will say I did appreciate the level of detail he did put on Storm and Emma and Kate's little triangle of respect. And
that's my favorite moment of Marauders. It is.
But other than that, there is no real character development beyond Kate. That's a Kate Pride book, honestly.
Yeah.
If it's anything, it's a Kate Pride book. It's basically it should be just titled Kate Pride and the Marauders. is what it should have been titled.
It started out that way more. That was kind of the hook for me, is that I was like, oh, I love this new version of Kate. I love what they're doing with her. And then after she died, I've told you guys both, I've been disappointed with it since then. When she came back, I expected the focus to be on her, and we really haven't got much focus on her. It's the book is kind of it's all over the place in a lot of ways, and it's been really solid, but it has lacked like direction for me for a long time, kind of since Kate's death, issue 6, I think.
Yeah, that
for
was
me. I know
back.
a lot of people have loved it for sure. I get that.
I think Marauders actually is an interesting case study for, I think, a lot of what comics are going through right now, which is one thing I think we're going to realize in like a year's time, like on a more like well-known basis, is, oh, that was a pandemic book. Like, and I think Marauders is actually a good case study for that, where like everything post 10 of Swords is like running out the clock. It's like it's like putting issues to try to get to the Hellfire Gala that was supposed to be in December 2020. So you run into these all behind the scenes inside baseball things where like those issues were never supposed to come out, or they were never supposed to come out in this order. And part of the reason I say that, and it's sort of, maybe I'm giving more leeway to that because I have similar problems with Marauders. It's gotten a little boring. There's some interesting stuff, but I kind of agree in general. Right. But like I just interviewed Sophie Campbell, the amazing writer and artist of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which Turtles comics are incredible right now. I did not know this until recently. Highly recommend it. And when I was talking,
oh, they're great.
It's so good. And when I was talking to Campbell about it, she was like, like the second arc, the second volume of that book is a pandemic holding pattern. Like it was supposed to be volume 1, volume 3. And the whole second arc was kind of just like this weird scheduling thing where it was like, we need something to fill these issues. We didn't know if we were going to be doing them. I don't have the time to draw so like, and in retrospect, like for readers, that experience is just going to be picking up volume 1, picking up volume 2. Like all the behind the scenes stuff isn't really going to matter. It's just going to be what's the story. But I do think with X-Men comics, that is definitely one of my critiques with 2021 has been like, where's my Reign of X? Like, I was promised a Reign of X, and all I got was this Continued Dawn. And I think that's the rationale. That's really what happened, is those calendars just got so messed up. And that part of it I empathize with, I suppose.
And squeezing it between the events that's another huge hurdle for these writers to get through. Is not putting anything too big right before an event, and that have to wrap things up before the event gets going. So that's a great point.
Well, even Children of the Atom, like that was a book that was supposed to come out how long ago?
Right.
And then it got held off, and then like I do remember reading somewhere that the book basically got held so that it would, like, I guess like a plot twist that technically we've kind of already seen by now, but was one of those situations that popped up that they wanted to coincide with the gala itself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And so it kind of makes it make more sense. So yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, there are definitely some pandemic books because we know that some of the series weren't supposed to be ongoings like indefinitely. Like we know, like some of them may be more recent choices, but I do kind of feel like some of these books were supposed to end at a certain point and make way for a different book, or step aside so another book could come in and maybe, I don't know, tell another side of the story, which I'd be perfectly fine with, as long as there's not 80 X-Men titles.
Yeah.
All at once.
79 I'll accept, but 80 is a bridge too far.
Took the words out of my mouth.
79 is okay.
Yeah.
But 80 is a bridge too far for me.
No, I do think, like, in terms of the amount of content they could be putting out there, there's definitely, like, there are so many books they could be doing. I think, a lot of fans feel like it's far too much. I think if you look historically at the amount of X-Men comics that are coming out at any one given time throughout the 2000s, like, actually this era is right on par, honestly, with where X-Men have been, which is kind of wild when you think about, like, how much tighter it is now, compared to, like, I don't know, 2006 or whatever. We got an interesting question here, or some theories in the super chat. So thanks to all of you who are listening to us live and firing away your questions. Again, keep the conversation going, keep it respectful, and keep good questions coming. So we got some theories here. It says, 1, Planet Size X-Men set a new standard and new, hopefully, Araki series. Do you think we'll actually get a Planet Araki book? Because I would love it.
I would love it.
Speaking of new books, I would like that's a day one poll. Do you guys think that'll actually happen?
It's crazy. As I'm sitting here, we're talking about, like, there's too many damn X books. I'm like, give me that book. I'm always coming out with new books that I would love to see more of. So, and I get it, and they sell. So, but it does feel like it waters it down. But would I want a Planet Araki book? Absolutely. I mean, it depends on the creative team. But yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Most certainly.
That's a no-brainer.
Going back to talking about them on Araki, like, I see a Planet Araki could be like Madripoor on a planet-sized scale, where it's just like the pirate world, especially this new frontier, and I could see like wars between the different groups of Araki. You know what I mean? Because like you said, they're not gonna just, okay, we've got our own planet now, let's all sing Kumbaya and hang out. They're gonna be battling someone, and if there's no one to battle, either they'll battle us on Earth or they'll battle themselves. So that would be cool.
I think my biggest dream right now is, and people have been asking this question too of me, is like, okay, what's the next Hickman book after Inferno? Which is like, on one hand, it's like, let's enjoy Inferno for a minute. Like, let's enjoy that before we start calling it. But I would love new X-Men written by Jonathan Hickman that is a Planet Araki book. Like, just straight up start giving these 16 million mutants, like carving out new space for them in the Marvel Universe. That would be absolutely fascinating. I think my biggest worry with what happened in Planet Size X-Men is, will Araki just become like cameo mutants? Like, will they perpetually be just kind of like, they took a trip to Mars, that's when they saw the Araki mutants, as opposed to their own characters? Because like Al Ewing brought one of them, like Core of the Burning Light, into Sword.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so we got a character on a team. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of like what is Iska doing? Because you got these really fascinating characters in just this world. So yeah, I would love to see them actually developed in more substantial terms. So the other theory we got here from this individual is Children of the Atom will be labeled pretenders like Wanda. So we got Wanda is the great pretender. We had Magneto refer to Franklin Richards as a pretender again today, just pouring salt in that FF wound that all of us are suffering from. And they're saying Children of the Atom will inevitably be labeled the same way. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what to make of Children of the Atom. What do you guys
You
think?
guys had to fill me in. I dropped it
Yeah.
after issue 2. Anything good going on?
I've been keeping up with it. I've actually been enjoying it.
It got better. The last couple issues I thought were more interesting, personally.
Yeah, well, because we're finally kind of, spoilers for, I guess, anyone who hasn't been reading it, but I mean, more or less the premise that these people are, I guess the initial idea was what kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because it rubbed me the wrong way at first, too, that they were like, basically cosplaying as X-Men.
Yeah.
But then you learn like what's actually going on and more about what's happening here, and the fact that they're not mutants. At least most of them aren't.
Right.
The jury's still out on one of them.
There's like like one maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But that's a huge maybe at that.
Yeah, right.
I always tell people covers lie. Covers lie. You can't
yes, they
trust
do.
a cover.
Yes, they do.
If they do anything, they lie.
they always lie. But no, I will say though, I feel like, especially with the events of the last issue, I think it was like with Children of the Atom #4, it is going to make this a little bit more interesting. How are they going to be regarded?
Yeah.
Because for all intents and purposes, the X-Men that have met them thus far think that they are mutants.
They still think that, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're treating them like that.
Yeah, they're treating them as mutants. They even gave them, Storm gave them a communicator.
Yeah. No, it's like if Storm showed up and talked to me, I'd be like, oh, I might be a mutant.
I
think that confirms it. Yeah.
I would start like trying to do like sparkle fingers, like
Right.
not happening.
You look like
not
Loki
happening?
in that first episode. Hold on, it's
Yeah.
coming.
Just wait for it.
Yeah. Children of the Atom is
can't do
it's
what
going to be
people are
so reveal heavy, is what I've been saying. Like it's
Yeah.
every perception of this book is going to be entirely based on what is the actual reveal that's coming, probably next issue, I'm guessing, in Children of the Atom #5. If Vita Ayala and the artist nail it, if they nail it and it's like, oh, that's a great idea, it's all going to be based on that reveal. And then it's going to make the preceding 4 issues potentially worth it. But if it is kind of, half-hearted, then it's going to be like, yeah, this series was a mess. Like, this is a weird idea and it didn't work. So I don't know. It's like until the reveal comes, I'm kind of like withholding most of my judgment,
Let me ask you guys a question real quick, because this is something I haven't heard a lot of buzz about. But like, as soon as I heard mutants are going to Mars, my first thought is the Martian breeding pits that we learned about back in the Hoxpox series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what got me excited. I guess it's nothing to get too hyped up about because we know it's coming, but this just seems like another step towards the fall of the mutants or the events that lead to Hoxpox or that Moira's life version of Earth.
Well, and I think it all kind of builds toward make more mutants, which is maybe an implication that gets lost just reading Planet Size X-Men. But it is like, okay, if they start creating more mutant worlds, you have to fill them with mutants. So how are you making more mutants? Because with Rocco, it's kind of like that just fell into their laps. Like Krakoa, I mean, unless Moira was like, hey, like, okay, Charlie, like, here's what's going to happen. This is how this is going to play out. Like, maybe, because they had been there. She had done that with Apocalypse before. But it's like 16 million mutants kind of just fell into their laps. So where are the rest of those coming from? I think, to your point, Verno, Moira's skeptical of using Sinister to do that, but Sinister's going to try to do that anyway. So, like, they have to start creating the mutants who are actually going to populate these planets, and that's like one of the biggest, most interesting questions as you consider the Empire expanding. Is like, where do those mutants come from? Are they out in space already? Like, is that how they're going to play it? Do they have to manufacture them through resurrection, through cloning, through some sort of process like that? Or is Nightcrawler's religion just very anti-condom? and that's where we go from
I mean, he is Catholic.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly. He's also very drunk at this Hellfire Gala, which I'm enjoying.
Oh no, he was like he was blue dude wasted in New Mutants. This recent issue of New Mutants. I can't help but feel like all of Moira's lives are gonna start culminating into just one mess of a life.
Yeah.
Because it seems like bits and pieces from each of her lives are starting to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like things that happen in one life. Oh, wait, we're seeing shades of that in this life. Well, now what about that life? Well, then we're starting to see shades of that now. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this life is literally just like it's like, well, I'm just going to throw everything at the wall and we're just going to see what happens. And it's like, well, that's what happens. Everything happens.
I think you're right. I mean, no, I think you're right, though. I think, like, probably the theme that feels the most likely to me is Life 10 is the final life where Moira lies and manipulates and tries to scheme everything. And I wonder if the lesson that she has to learn here, that Destiny told her, like, if you make the right choice, I feel like the theme has to be trusting mutant kind and actually having open communication about what the plans are. Like that action, because I feel like that's a theme of Hickman's work, is if you look at what he did with the Illuminati in New Avengers and Avengers, like the best state of the world was not 7 men in a room deciding the fate for everyone else. Like if you take anything from Avengers and New Avengers, it's like that secrecy, that shadow play leads to problems. And I can't help but think something similar eventually is going to be the lesson here for Moira, Charles, and Magneto. Because it is, I think that's what Inferno is going to be about in so many ways. It's going to be, oh, you thought you could just like toy with Mystique like this? Like you thought you could just like literally kick her while she's down, like kind of stuff. And it's like Inferno is going to be, you can do that, but she's going to burn it all down, and you're going to have problems.
Well, we've seen seeds of this. We've seen not just with Mystique, but Vita Ayala's been kind of seeding this in New Mutants, with the whole situation with Wolfsbane.
Yeah.
People like it's one of those things where I actually thought, if you go back and read this current issue, I think it was New Mutants 19. If you go back and read there's a section where Danny and Wolfsbane are having a conversation about Tyr, her son, and why they won't resurrect him, or even telling Wolfsbane whether he's actually alive or dead or whatever.
Yeah.
But the response that Danny had was one that I think we kind of took for granted, because no one really knows all the inner workings about how the resurrection protocols actually work, or why anyone gets resurrected versus why anyone doesn't.
Yeah.
No one really knows all that stuff. So I kind of feel like when we get to Inferno, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, what the heck is Mystique going to do against Charles Xavier Magneto? But the thing I think people forget is that Mystique is a very persuasive person, and she reads the room. And and I guarantee, go back and read House of X #6, the moment where Mystique is kind of like chilling in the cut while everybody's making decisions about Sabretooth and everything else. She's not just sitting there ignoring everybody. She's reading the room, and she knows who she can work with, who she can't. And I would not be surprised if she is actually plotting to get other like-minded individuals, people who have been spurned by Krakoa's mysterious rules that they don't tell anybody about.
Right.
Something tells me, you're going to start seeing some of the people who feel disenfranchised by Krakoa, or feel like they're not getting everything they were promised. Like we've seen it seeded in various other books, and I think it just kind of slips under the radar sometimes. But I don't think just because people are there doesn't mean that they're happy. So I don't know. It's I just know stuff's gonna get burnt down. I'm taking Inferno quite literally.
Oh yeah. No, it's interesting. Like it's gonna be super interesting how that event plays out. Verno, do you have any big Inferno theories, especially too, like in the wake of, the mutants are trying to expand into space. They've got all the Araka mutants are on Mars. What happens on Inferno? And I guess like one thing. Well, I'll let you answer it first before I start saying it. Like, what do you think is going to come in Inferno?
Oh, you're the theory and predictions guy, Dave. I think it's going to be dope. I think there's going to be fire art, and I think it's going to be hot, and things are going to burn down. No, I don't know. I kind of hope that afterwards, I said this before, I think Krakoa will still exist, but I kind of hope like the Green Lagoon is gone. Like the things that we've come to know, they are burnt down, and maybe our mutants have to flee to Mars, or just like the new status quo. Not to say we're going back to the old status quo, but a new status quo after that, where
Mhm.
it's no longer a party on Krakoa. They're prepping for war. They're using Danger Island finally, which I've been waiting to see for a
Yeah.
long ass time now. Things like that. I think that would be the direction I hope it goes in. And honestly, at this point, I hope Xavier gets what he's got coming, because I'm fully over this dude. Like,
Yeah.
I've been downplaying it the whole time. Like, oh, he's got his reasons. But at this point, I think it was your last video, Dave. You said you're theorizing that may not be Xavier. It might be Cassandra Nova in his body, kind of a thing. I hope that's the case, because I think I'll never forgive the man for the way he's treated Mystique. Is where I'm at, you know.
Yeah,
What
no,
a
that was the
ballad.
last Sinister Secret.
Yeah.
The last Sinister Secrets. There was the first one was I forget the language now,
Something
but
about a dude wearing multiple masks, or people wearing multiple masks. You wear it too long,
not letting the
multiple
past
masks.
go. All that, whatever the language exactly was, all of
Right.
it was just like, oh, this is a Cassandra Nova thing now, and that was like one of the early House Powers theories, just because Hickman loves the Morrison run. That's, I mean, who doesn't? And it's like
Right.
Cassandra Nova hasn't been touched, so it's like, okay, if that character, unless I see that character somewhere else, and it hasn't happened, then like I'm until otherwise, I'm like, yeah, her and Charles are together somehow. I don't know that that's necessarily a horrible thing. Like, it doesn't
Right.
have to be the obvious, oh, and she's the evil mastermind. It could be like Charles could be like, yeah, I know, what of it? And that's just kind of their own shared moral decay.
Let me
through
ask
this
you guys,
era.
where is Cassandra Nova, like, leading up to this point? Or do either of you guys know? Like, obviously
Yeah.
we don't know where she is in the new era, but like, where did we last see her? Because I haven't read it. I don't.
She was referenced
X-Men
in the
Red?
Rosenberg X-Men, and she was in prison.
Okay.
Okay.
Emma Frost is like reading a newspaper, and it's like Cassandra Nova's in a one prison cell or something, but doesn't seem like an easy prisoner to contain, and also like that whole 6 months gap thing is still like super nebulous. That could be anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think other than that, the only time I've seen Cassandra Nova is in like one of the Heroes Reborn. That's a completely different
Yes.
reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But honestly, the more that I think about it, having seen her reappear in Heroes Reborn, Magneto and the Mutant Force, does actually now have my wheels turning if she is actually like involved in some kind of way. We just don't know it yet in the Earth 616 timeline.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, that was a random character to just kind of throw out there, for this whole thing. I mean, I get it, but yeah, I do actually wonder.
I mean, I gotta say too,
what
like,
all is going on there.
well, right. I do like it better if it's just Charles. I gotta say, like,
Yeah.
I do like it
Yeah.
better if it's really just him reacting to what Moira has showed him, and just yeah, let's accept Professor X making horrible decisions, and or
Right.
decisions he thinks like he's just full on pragmatic, like, this is best for Krakoa. I don't care who
Right.
gets hurt. Like, that's more interesting to me than
Yeah.
oh, there was an evil mastermind behind him. I think at the end of the day, so I feel like that Sinister Secret was heavily teasing the presence of Nova, but at the same time, I like the story better if she's not pulling strings or whatever.
It's just, I get his idea, like, okay, put mutant kind first and for the greater good kind of a thing, but you don't have to be such a jerk, as Kitty Pryde might say. You know what I mean? He's so cold to
Yeah.
Mystique. It's like, that was the line. Like, because we've all been tossing around in our minds since Hoxpox. Is that Xavier? Why is he wearing a mask? Blah, blah, blah. But for him to be like that, that was the moment where I'm like, that better not be him. That better not be him.
Yeah.
I think it's him. I think it's just that he's being a jerk, which is what honestly, I'm used to Charles Xavier being a jerk, so I'm unsurprised by all of this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I try to remind everyone of is, like, historically, he's the biggest jerk, and it's like, it's things like the animated series, it's things like Patrick
movies.
Stewart, though.
Yep.
That's where Professor X is the grandfather you always wanted, but it's like,
Yeah.
the comics, he's generally a jerk and he makes
But he's
horrible
not
decisions.
cruel. He's not, you know what I mean? Like, there's a
He's rarely
cruelness
so
in this
intentionally
guy.
cruel up to this point.
Yeah.
I think that's
Right.
probably, with the exception of towards his, only son, who he is the worst at towards.
Oh, he's absolutely he's a trash dad.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
He
yeah.
goes down in the history of trash dads.
Not getting
It's
a
like
card
there's
this Sunday.
Goku and then there's Charles Xavier. they're like right, it's like you put them like right there on each other.
Neck and neck. Absolutely. We got a good question here from Damien in the super chat, which is, shouldn't Moira be orchestrating the pairing off of 2 Omega level mutants to create a Super Omega second generation that could produce another Franklin Richards or greater instead of joining the Technarchy, which I think is, a popular theory that definitely I've been talking about, which is maybe her ultimate plan. The production of Omega level mutants is a really interesting question, I think, because that is something that early in house, it might even be the first issue, we get that data page where it's like, this is our greatest natural resource, right? And if that's the one, and then we see today in Planet Size X-Men, that is what allows them to terraform this planet, like the power of Omega levels. Like, they are so absolutely important. They are so fundamental to mutant survival. We haven't really seen like what, if anything, is being done to make sure there are more of them. Aside from sinister chimera type tampering, do you guys have any thoughts on like, I mean, again, like I guess Damien's kind of proposing here, like literally just being like Legion and Hope. You get to procreate and make babies, but obviously that's like, that has nasty implications to put it mildly.
Oh God.
So I think it's got to be Sinister related, but I don't think Moira trusts Sinister enough to do it. So I don't know what the plan is there. That's an interesting question.
I kind of think what they've been demonstrating, especially in the most recent X books, where they've been focusing on mutant synergy and Sword and then New Mutants, and then just the whole era of Krakoa with the 5 and then the 6. It seems like, where am I going with that? Oh, they could do anything. If they need to create more Omega level mutants, they can do it. If they need to create a planet, they can do it. Like whatever you can think of, you get enough mutants together using synergy, and they could just do it that way. And you could look at that as a downside too. A lot of people are, they're too super powered right now. Who can threaten them other than a Nimrod? But I think you could do it using synergy.
Yeah.
Final answer.
I like that answer. I mean, I guess too, like the thing that in Moira's journal entries that she, I mean, all but confirms, I mean, she says it, I don't think it's really even a theory at this point, is she found matches for herself and for Charles to reproduce Legion and Proteus, their children, right? So like they were very calculated in having their kids. When we talk about Professor X being a trash dad, it is kind of like, yeah, like if you factor that in retroactively to like, this being like a science experiment to make an Omega level mutant, like it's like 1, gross, 2, like explains a lot about his attitude toward his kid. But the fact that she could do that with them makes me think too that like, well, maybe she could do that with like all sorts of mutants. You know what I mean? And then again, you get into that really just nasty space of like eugenics. That's like, this is a gross territory for Krakoa to go. But they seem to have the knowledge, at least on a genetic level, of how to do that. I just can't see that being... There's no way they could propose that on Krakoa. Well, I was going to say that, you could put in, like... It could be like a dating service on Krakoa, where it's like, make an Omega kind of thing, and you could see who your matches are, or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't have to be horrible, but if it's like a mandatory kind of thing, then it's like, all right, we're in a new era of Krakoa where this is, a fascist prison planet kind of thing.
Like suddenly it turns into like Logan's Run or something. Like,
yeah,
good Lord. No, I don't. Man, God, that makes for some heavy material. I don't know if I get the idea of like wanting to make more Omegas, but man, God, that would be a very weird way to go about it.
I think keeping it to the Professor and Moira as the only ones who would even consider that, it says a lot about them, and then you don't have to make that a regular conversation you're having in X-Men comics that I think all of us would rather avoid. To that end, though, I do think like Arakko brings in new Omegas in a way. So I think we're seeing this chart expanding already. Again, sort of through dumb luck, through landing on Arakko. I think maybe there are much more fun Marvel Comics ways to do this, such as like, are there Omega level mutants in space? Do Skrulls have mutants? Like this is something I've talked about a lot, but it's like, what do we consider a mutant? Is it an Earth, X gene, Terran? Can we expand that definition? And then how do we potentially make more mutants that way, as opposed to like literally, taking that law so literal, I suppose.
Well, it's definitely one thing because I know like you can say like I wasn't a warlock. Warlock is considered a mutant by his own species because he's not like the rest of them. Or like you have like Brew from the Brood, he's considered a mutant because he's not like the rest of the Brood. But it's like I do wonder about that though because why only our mutants aren't just an Earth thing? I couldn't possibly imagine.
Yeah,
like there's got to be other mutants out there. I would actually be surprised if there weren't any.
I've always assumed they weren't. I always thought it was like an X gene was an Earth thing. But you're right. There totally could be mutants. There has to be mutants on other planets. But is it the same? Would they be able to walk through the gates? I would think no. You know what I mean? As of now.
That level of specificity to the question, I think, is still a little open-ended. I think ultimately it's really just up to the creators. Like, if this X office is like, hey, remember that time Professor X led a group of Skrulls around and he called them mutants and they were like exactly his original 5 mutants, which is like a late 90s X-Men thing? They could be like, yeah, let them on Krakoa. Like, they can decide that, and then the floodgates open. I kind of like it if they would just do it that way, because then it's like you can get mutant kind then is like, then your empire grows in a way that is less, I don't know, it's like it's less difficult to just have the numbers to do that if you're already tapping into existing populations and characters in the Marvel Universe. So, all right, let's continue to work through. I think any final thoughts or theories on Planet-Size X-Men that we haven't touched on yet? Things about where you think this might be going, stuff that you didn't expect to see today. Any of that. General Hellfire Gala reactions. We had 2 additional tie-ins today. We had X-Corp number 2 and New Mutants number 19. My take has been basically, if you were already following an X title, keep doing it. If you weren't, you don't need it unless it's one of the core. Unless it's one of the core issues, and if it was one of the core issues, with Marauders accepted, you should be reading those anyway, because they're all great. But
unless you're like everyone that collects comics, where we have to have it all, so,
or that.
I almost bought X Corp and didn't read it, but I did. I'll just say, like, as Hellfire in general, I went into it with very low expectations. And after rereading the first 3 issues, what we got before Planet-Size X-Men, I really liked all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I thought Marauders' job was to set up the mystery of what the announcement was going to be. And I left Marauders super intrigued about what the announcement was. So X-Force entertained me. And it actually, I said this on my show, I was kind of impressed that Percy played one of his big cards. The Telefloronic people from Terra Verde. And that's one of the bigger threads in X-Force, and he played that card at the Gala. And then after that, in Excalibur, Teenie Howard played the Morgan Le Fay card at the Gala, that's been going since issue number 1. And I've enjoyed that thread. Excalibur's been up and down for me. I love an issue, hate an issue, and that's been since issue 1. But I thought that was pretty good. Today's issues, other than Planet Size, didn't really do it for me. I thought New Mutants was okay. I'll just throw this out there. Did that cover fool both of you? And did both of you, like I did, think that was a Rod Reese cover? It's Martin Simmons who does the Department of Truth art. Yeah. And stylistically, they're so close. Yeah, it was a great...
The Disciples of Bill Sienkiewicz. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
He's a little more Bill Sienkiewicz even than Rod Reese is. And I remember looking at the cover, I'm like, man, he's really channeling Sienkiewicz. And then I realized it was a different artist, Martin Simmons.
I didn't catch that. Now I'm looking at him like, wow.
Yeah. Martin Simmons, artist of Department of Truth, which is one of my favorite comics of late 2020 into 2021. That comic absolutely kills. I saw that reminds me, I saw James Tynion the 4th tweet today that he was loving Planet-Size X-Men, basically just like praising the book. Bring in James Tynion the 4th into the X office. Dude. Whatever it takes, Marvel. If you can do it, because dude is on another level right now. Like one of the best comics creators, bar none. If they bring him into the X-verse, like all bets are off. All bets are off.
If I could pick one writer, that'd be it.
Oh, dude, I just want to say, something is killing the children. Please read it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Read it.
The Nice House on the Lake, which I cannot stop calling the Nice House on the Left. Read it. So good. So good. I've said it like
the guy's a genius. The guy's a genius.
He's on fire.
He's writing the best book at DC right now in Batman. He's writing one of the best books, Department of Truth, at Image, and then at DC Black Label, The Nice House on the Lake. He's got Wind for young A or YA. That's one of the. I'm not that I read a lot of YA, but it's an enjoyable, cute little read for sure. Yeah. He's incredible, incredible.
I don't think I've seen a book get as unanimously praised as I've seen the reaction to Nice House on the Lake. Like everyone, like creators, fans, critics, whoever, they're so over the moon about that book. Like it's truly one of the highest approval ratings I've seen of a new book in such a long time. But yeah, so that's my request for the Marvel X-Men office for the day is bring in all the best writers, please. That would be absolutely incredible. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Verno, on the tie-ins. I mean, I think they've actually mostly been enjoyable. I like New Mutants a little bit more than you. I think that book is quite good. I'm consistently amazed by Ayala's ability to just manage so many plots and not have the book feel overstuffed in New Mutants. There's something, I don't know how they're pulling it off, frankly, in that title. It's clearly too much, but it always fits and it feels like a concise read.
Right. Well, you're juggling the plot with Shian and her brother Tran. You're juggling the plot with Scout and the other kids. You have No Girl and Noli and Cosmar and all that, and Shadow King and all that's intertwined with that. You've also got Wolfsbane and Tyr.
It's so much. It's so much.
What is
Warlock and Doug?
Yeah, that too.
Finally got some Warlock action today, which was nice.
Yeah,
I did not appreciate. I won't spoil it for people who didn't read. Did not appreciate that ending. I did not appreciate that ending. That hit a little hard.
How it ended.
That actually, you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. That actually kind of killed my mood for the
right.
It actually really, and without saying why, I will just say that I have had experiences with people in my life in similar fashion. And yeah, it just I will actually go to limb and say it triggered me a little. It actually triggered me a little. I actually almost DM'd Vita Ayala and was like, "What the hell were you thinking?"
I mean, it's a rough one.
No, I can't remember how it ended.
It's a rough one, and I actually kind of wonder if that wouldn't have been better placed in New Mutants number 20 in a non-Hellfire Gala issue, just because it is it's this weird moment of celebration, and then and it's on one hand I want the creators to keep their story going. But just kind of tonally, thematically, but just aside from that, New Mutants number 19, the other amazing thing it does is in weaving all those plots together, they're all connected to the same theme of maintaining friendships over time. It's about Warlock and Doug, it's about Rain and Danny, just kind of how challenging. It's just there's a level of calculation to that that's very.
It's about self-improvement too, with Warpath writing his, or not Warpath, whatever his name. You know what I'm talking about. Well, writing his little journal and all that. It is. It's a sweet book.
It is.
Oh no, definitely.
It is. But I mean, otherwise, I think X Corp. I think all of us, before we were talking about a little bit. Just I don't know. I don't like X Corp. I don't think it's good. I don't know what it's trying. I guess I know what it's trying to do. I just don't think it's succeeding. And I'm pretty hard out on X Corp, barring a significant change to this title.
I'll catch it on Krakin Krakoa and Blur Without Fear's channel. I'll figure out what's going on with that. But I'll leave it to you, to the pros.
I wanted to like it. Honestly, at this point, the David Aja covers are the best thing about it by far. And that is a problem. That's not good because there's a lot of comic to be told in there.
Yeah,
I should love a book that stars Monet.
Yeah,
I should love it. I do not love it.
Let me ask you guys this. This is a bit of a negative thing, but how over these data pages, these non-Hickman written data pages. Al Ewing crushes the data pages. I think Percy does a good job with them. I don't want to even name the names of the people that bug me. I just want to be polite about it. But there are some data pages that I'm just as soon as I flip the page and I see a page full of words, I'm like, oh God. Very rarely. And then at the end of Planet Size X-Men, to end an issue with 2 pages of data pages that don't really give us anything other than some perspective it's why it kills the momentum of the read.
It should have been in the middle of the book.
I agree.
Yeah, it's weird to have them at the end, unless it's a stunner stinger kind of drop some info. I agree with the planet-sized data pages today. They were both just very innocuous. And unless you did the Watchmen back matter approach, you know, where like the expectation was they'd be at the end, you know, that's not what these X-Men books have been doing. I think I'm still pro data page as a style, as a tool. I think just like there just has to be good information and there has to be good purpose. I really appreciate the creators that get creative with it. You know, I like when they're not just doing text. When I think Leah Williams and maybe Vita have done a better job with this, where it's like Dazzler posters or, you know, like tickets even or invitations. Like get a little more creative with them, I think is more fun for me than these endless Dolores memos where it's like, unless she's dropping info, they just aren't as compelling as I think maybe the creators think they are. But like Sinister Secrets.
The X-Force ones are definitely better. The X-Force ones I like a lot.
Well, they're kind of essential.
I'll tell you what.
Right? Because they give you Beast give you Beast character. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, Benjamin Percy, he's also a novelist, and he's one that I'll flip the page and I'll see all these words and I'll think, oh God, and then I'll start reading it and I'll get captivated by it. Like you can tell he knows how to write a page full of words and make it entertaining. And I think he's really good with it. I'm excited. He's writing an Aliens book coming up. I don't know if you guys saw that. He's writing a Marvel Aliens comic book. That I'm stoked about that. I love the Aliens that's out right now by Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yeah, I like that book too. I didn't know that this was a thing, so now okay, all right. Well, I'll put another log on the fire. I guess I'll be reading another one.
Right.
Endless room. Awesome. All right, I want to get to some of these super chat things real quick if you guys have time. Clever Cape asks, do you think that Life 11 will be something akin to Heroes Reborn, as in something like an alternate universe that will be reverted back? That is an interesting question, I think. That is a definite... I've been viewing it as Life 10 ends, and then everything has to go to Life 11. Everything in the Marvel Universe has to be considered a part of whatever Moira's Life 11 is. I have not been viewing it as an alternate that could be reverted, because there's nothing in Moira's... Again, we don't have enough Moira information, but there's nothing in the story that we've seen so far that suggests she can hop lifelines or go back. Now, we might get some of that. Again, we have the endless bring back Rasputin crowd, right? Where, like, they went in a black hole. If they don't show up again, that would be very disappointing. Like, I think we can all agree. So is it possible? Sure. I mean, sure. Like, why not, right? You could have black hole space travel. That's how black holes work. Trust me. I would know. That's definitely how they work. You can hop between lifelines. I don't think it'll be that, but I like the idea. What do you guys think?
Well, I'd rather ask you guys, like, is that what you think is going to happen? Is that there's going to be a full Marvel reset? Like, the way it's laid out in the comics is if Moira dies, like, Daredevil's run ends, Thor's run ends, everybody's run ends and starts over. Like, how do you do that? This would be like a, you know, like a DC Crisis almost is what it would feel like.
Yeah.
Like we did New 52, but it only affected like the X-Men.
Right. You can't do it. Exactly. You can't just do it like, oh, Hickman's got this plan for the X books. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. Like Chip Zdarsky's over there writing Daredevil. And he's like, wait, he's doing what? You know, so I'm really curious about what's going to happen.
The Mutant 52 is coming. I'm excited for it. I really think so.
Thing now.
Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars was an almost kill everything Secret Wars kind of book. I think there's a very real possibility that the end game of this, which again, years away, decades away from happening, I really think that end game will be a drop everything. Everything's a part of this moment, life reset thing, where then the Marvel Universe, I guess there's two ways it could play out. One is we pick up from where we left off in Life 10 up to a point, and basically all the continuity, all the story that we knew happened, but we pick up from when Nimrod killed Moira and everything went to heck, right?
That's a good point.
Or the other option is what Ernie said, which is straight up New 52 it, and Marvel, which they have not pulled that trigger. They have not pulled the trigger to say, hey, what if we just restarted the universe and made everything super accessible? That went great, right? Like when DC did that, like 2011 was awesome, and then we don't talk about any of the other years because why would we bother? They could do that.
Just Animal Man and Batman. We don't talk about the rest of
it. We don't talk about the rest of that until we get to Grayson or whatever. But I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't do that. I like the Marvel Universe sticking to the endless, refreshed continuity, but never fully rebooted. But I think it'll be Secret War style. Just everything ends, everything's a part of the Phalanx War or whatever, and then they pick up from a point where they left off. So then your Captain America continuity is like, yeah, you can just keep going, like you're fine, kind of thing.
I would rather
that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Don't mess up the look. The X-Men continuity is convoluted as it is already, and a lot of other Marvel continuity gets kind of messy too if you don't know where to start. So, yeah, don't muddy the water.
Yeah,
by doubling back and saying, "Hey, well, technically, Marvel did kind of do it with Ultimate Universe, but it didn't really have any bearing on the main Marvel universe. It's it was kind of a half-ass version of New 52. It's no, it's just separate comics. It doesn't have anything to do with it. You can still read your stuff over here.
I mean,
for the news.
An X-Men Ultimate Universe that approach would be pretty fascinating. Like if they had the confidence to be like, yeah, we're the biggest thing in Marvel. We're just going to do our own separate X-Men line. But I just think the nature of how integrated Marvel properties are, historically, that would ultimately be worse than it was good for. So, plus I've been pulling for an actual Ultimate Universe reboot for years now, and they're well overdue.
Well, I think it's something like that's coming. No spoilers, but there's another big book that came out today that I don't know if you've got to it yet, but I won't say anything. Something's going on with the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, I know the one, but I haven't read it yet. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward.
#same.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got a question here. Are enemies? Are the Inhumans enemies of the X-Men? Is the question essentially, right? Where they're asking are they enemies like Wanda the Pretender because of the Terrigen bomb that was threatening and killing mutants? This has been weirdly never discussed. And I would actually like to see. I think we're deep enough into the Dawn of X and the Reign of X right now, where I would like to see the creators be like, yeah, we can acknowledge those years of Marvel Comics that X-Men fans were unhappy with. We're safe. We're safe. Sales are good. These stories are good. We can talk about it now. The Inhumans should be kind of considered enemies of Krakoa. I guess I don't really have a problem with that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
They can be enemies.
Yeah, right? Why not?
I'm with you guys.
Yeah, if and when they're around.
When was the last time we saw an Inhuman? I mean, I guess I'm not reading every Marvel book, but they're on ice right now. So
I've seen Lockjaw.
Yeah.
I've had Lockjaw.
Lockjaw has been in Thor. That's about the most I've seen of any Inhuman.
I mean, I'm not opposed to. I mean, Hickman's he wrote some Black Bolt stuff in his Fantastic Four, some good Inhumans. I'm not opposed to seeing them in the cosmic landscape, especially.
I always forget Miss Marvel is an Inhuman.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Can we just all forget that as well, and then just pretend that they just got their powers like any other normal decent superhero?
Marvel's Avengers video game, it tried to forget that by so desperately wanting Inhumans to be mutants. That whole game so badly wishes she was a mutant. Oh, it's kind of sad. Kind of sad.
If only. There's still hope. Can we get a Scarlet Witch level retcon?
Yeah.
Where we find out that she actually the Terrigenesis didn't actually affect her becoming Inhuman. It actually made. Can we get that? Do that instead?
It was just really convenient timing. It was just she just happened to be a mutant and would have happened anyway. Yeah, I love it. There's a question here about Planet Size. Lactuca, one of the new Araco mutants, her last words to Jean were, "They know what is in our hearts," or Jean says that about her. With that character's power set, does this mean she knows Moira is at the heart of Krakoa? I did not interpret that way. Mm-mm. That is an interesting interpretation. Right. That would be cooler. I just read that to mean she knows they're not a-holes.
Yeah,
right?
she knew their intentions were pure.
Yeah. That's how I kind of I took it that way, and also kind of took it another way where I thought maybe they knew that they were just doing this to maybe they knew that there's another agenda or something that's going on other than what was obvious. I don't know, but I didn't take it as anything to do with Moira at all.
Nah.
Even slightest.
I think unless it's Hickman, You know, basically, it's like there's not going to be more reveals, and basically, like until we get to Inferno, just put a pause on expecting anything. I think major. Maybe some of the build to that we'll start to get into it, which would be cool. We do have a good question here, and again in the super chat. And thanks to everybody who has contributed and submitted questions here. Will humans try to take Mars away? Is that the new problem Captain America was talking about? So the Captain America thing is in Marauders 21. He told Scott Summers, you guys solved one problem, with that solution being, hey, Arako's starting to like claim cities in Japan for themselves. So
Right.
they're becoming a problem. So the solution there is, okay, we'll put them on Mars, right? They get their own planet. So problem solved, but you created a new one. The new one being you just claimed a planet in the solar system and basically claimed the solar system. Humanity's probably going to react angrily in certain spheres. I mean, I think eventually Orcus will... I think there will be some kind of war, some sort of battle. I mean, I think it's very likely. Again, like there's a Sentinel city on Mercury or something. Like it's very believable that Orcus would attack Mars or attack Krakoa or something. You know, there could be some sort of giant battle like that. I don't think humanity's in a place right now where they would be successful trying to take Mars away, so I don't think we're close to that. But I do think, like, it's going to up... I think it's going to up Orcus's timeline as well. I guess is kind of where I net out. So, like, Magneto's like, we need to accelerate our timeline because they got a Nimrod. I think the same thing's going to happen with Orcus, and then just everything's going to escalate faster and faster, basically.
I would have loved to see, and I don't think this was the Gala was broadcast on TV, but I would have loved to got a couple panels from Orcus's perspective, like seeing them terraform Mars and seeing the fireworks and be like, oh boy,
yeah,
that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's actually funny you say that because I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't seen them at any of this because they invited all their other enemies.
Did we see? I think we saw Henry Peter Gyrick. I want to say,
yeah, we saw Gyrick technically is Orcus.
Technically,
so yeah,
but it's like stealth still.
Speaking.
Yeah,
right. They don't know he's
under
Orcus.
the radar, right? But like, we didn't see Dr. Gregor, we didn't see Director Devo, we didn't see any of them. But yeah, we saw the Verendi, who are a very open and obvious enemy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We saw and I'm gonna go on a limb and say I want to remember that Natalia Volok, the Russian diplomat or whatever she is, she's been fairly obvious that she's against them. She's been more than fairly obvious since House of X #1 even, but more obvious in the Marauders issues. And then you've got Ruben Brousseau, who couldn't, like, literally, he's the poster child for like hating mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's being in the same, like, that's while being in the same room with Henry Peter Gyrick. Like, you could not be a more obvious hater of mutants than Ruben Brousseau.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, I'm gonna go on a limb and say that dude says the word mutie a lot.
Too much.
I think he
often.
says it a lot. I'm gonna go on a limb and say he says it. But
every time he speaks, everybody listening's like, I don't like the way he said that. They're like, everyone's cringing, like, oh, I don't.
A little uncomfortable.
Like yeah.
It's like, wait, what do you mean, which breed?
Mm-hmm.
Keep talking about. Yeah, it's just what my parents used to call mutants. But no, it's funny to me though that they invited all these other people, but we have not really seen Orcus in a official capacity.
Right.
More importantly, I don't know if either of y'all have considered this either, but like, I just kind of want to hurry up and get to the next issue of X-Force because I feel like Beast needs his ass whipped. He's turning people into monsters, and
he's confident enough to invite them to the party. Like he turned them into monsters. Then he's like, "Yeah, this will be fine. Come on down to the party. What could go wrong?"
That's gonna happen.
I'm in complete control.
He's like, "No, it's fine. Don't worry about it."
I love that Emma found him out. I think that's big. I think to your point, Verno, like Percy playing that card, that's a big thing. And I actually think that's going to be pretty critical in Emma's development here, especially in the build towards Inferno and what seems to be an alliance maybe with Mystique and with that faction of things, where she's like, wait, like Professor X, like you're good with this. Like you're good with Beast, right? You've signed off on all this. Okay, I'm going with Mystique. Like I really think that's where this is heading. I think her witnessing what Beast did is going to be a huge factor in that because it's just like it's like what is the upside? Like there's no upside to what Beast is doing. There's just these horrible things, and like he's doing it with impunity currently.
Well, like she said, when the world finds out what you've done, everything that we've worked for is basically null and void. Like it's done. You've ruined it, essentially. And I'm curious to see. Like I'm like, dude, like when are we gonna see the fallout from that? Because I actually thought that, like honestly, that might have made X-Force probably, oddly enough, my favorite issue so far out of all the tie-ins for that reason. Just
it escalated it, yeah.
Yeah, it took things to the next level, and we know that everyone's leaving pissed off.
Right. Well, it's a little bit. I'm kind of curious about this because my assumption was, and I'm sure the same as yours, is that we're going to get to X-Force 13, I think it is, Hellfire issue, and we're going to see like the Telefloronic people wreak havoc at the Hellfire Gala. But it didn't really seem to have. Everybody seemed to be leaving. Nobody was, maimed. Everybody had all their body parts still. So that's a little bit anticlimactic. They must have contained it. Deadpool, Wolverine working together, something. But that's a little bit weird. The way that, especially that we got the planet-size X-Men in the middle of the event.
Right.
I think it was, in my mind, as I'm thinking, it kind of shows like a lack of faith in the event. Like enough people weren't going to stick around through all the other tie-ins to get to planet size. Maybe. I don't know.
I think definitely you're right that like because we've seen how the night plays out, that must not have escalated in the way that issue teases.
Right.
They're going to keep it contained somehow in the pages of Wolverine. I guess we'll find out. I am surprisingly pro bringing Deadpool into X-Force. I did not necessarily think I would feel that way, but seeing him swim to the island in his little floaty with his snorkel, I was like, oh yeah, this will be fun. I'm into
his
this.
Quote at the end of that book was perfect.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of X-Force, you know you want me in you. Like I'm like, yes, they do.
Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, I think I do. All right, we got a super chat here that just says, we need a comic that follows Apocalypse and his family and what dangers they face and conquer on their island. Here for it. I mean, miniseries, limited series, Apocalypse and Genesis, that would rule. I mean, that it is, it's funny. Every time somebody brings up a possible book, it's like, yep, do it. Do it. Sign off.
Slam dunk, let's go.
Yeah. It says, could the Coda kids become the first Chimera mutants? Sinister confirmed he can make humans into mutants, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they're chimeras. I don't think that theory is going to play out. What do you guys think? Or I guess early, because Verno, you backed out. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think the question, I might be wrong, but I think they're asking if maybe Sinister could turn these kids into chimeras since they so clearly want to be chimeras. I could be wrong, but I read it as it was going through. But maybe it means something different.
I don't know. I don't know. That book is going a very certain direction, and I don't know if that... Kind of like as Dave said earlier, like until it comes to its inevitable conclusion, it's kind of hard to say one way or the other. But I don't know if I want that to be the case. I don't know if I want the Chimera thing to to be a thing. Like it almost seems like it would muddy the water.
Yeah.
Like it's like and I know this is something we kind of bring up more often than not. The whole Occam's razor. The less complex we give you is probably the more likely way that the scenario is going to play out. I don't like muddying the water too much when it comes to some of this stuff, because I feel like it cheapens the development you've already gotten.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It may look good on paper, but execution is a whole other thing. There's a lot of great ideas out there that look good on paper.
It'd be a weird tonal thing to take, like the tone, at least from the first couple issues of Children of the Atom that I read, and then have those kids, now you're going to be our warriors in the Chimera and go fight this battle for us. It's kind of like the way, like I viewed the Five during Hoxpox as like these, like, oh God, we all look up to the Five, and they're these like special beings now. And then I actually enjoyed quite a bit of X Factor, but I would have rather seen X Factor or the Five treated in a more like serious tone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than like as the jokey book that they were in,
X Factor was a book that I actually assumed before they revealed who the roster of the team was going to be. I assumed X Factor was going to be the 5. Like, it was, this is going to be the 5.
Yeah.
They're just handling business. But then we got a different team, which I'm perfectly fine with that team.
Right.
But yeah, I do kind of wish that the 5 were, because they have been built up to be this, like, we must, we speak of them with reverence. They're important to, the entire structure of our way of life now. Let's keep them in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep them in the background. I like Proteus and Elixir and all of them, as much as the next person, but let's not parade them out every chance we get.
Yeah,
Right.
and too much Proteus means I do my Scottish accent way too much in videos. So frankly, we're all winning without hitting that too hard. We got another super chat cheer says, "Love you guys. I enjoyed Planet Size, but would have enjoyed it a lot more had Merle not over promoted it." This is kind of what I was getting at the first question. We kicked this thing off with, which basically, because my expectations got very high, and then they cooled once Inferno was announced. Because I was like, everything's gonna happen in the Hellfire Gala, and then Inferno was announced, and it's like, oh no, it's gonna do one big thing in Planet Size. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a chance to chill and hang out with mutants, and the big stuff's coming in Inferno. So I don't fault them for playing it up as this big fun moment. I mean, I think first off, why wouldn't you market your comics intensely? I think the build up with the fashion and the design, like that was. X fans were eating that stuff up. Like X fans were over the moon about that. So I don't have a problem. I think Planet Size, I guess, just to like bring it all full circle, we could have criticisms or we could have our own, personal expectations and this and that. I think Planet Size delivers. Like I think it's a moment, it's an event, and it gives a mutant planet to the Marvel Universe. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think for me, the Hellfire Gala, regardless of the ending, it's like, yeah, this was a success. Like this gave us something genuinely big. It's going to shape the comics moving forward. And what else do you want? Like we're not going to come out of it being like, oh, what actually happened? Like we'll remember. I think. Right. We'll remember what it was.
I would say I agree with you. I think overall, like the whole gala has been a little bit better than I expected it to be. I wasn't super pumped for it. I wasn't way into the high fashion and all that, but I enjoyed I enjoyed the gala.
It's made for interesting conversations. Mm-hmm. You've gone on like Instagram or Twitter and seen the cosplay community. They've been killing it, recreating all these outfits, and almost, with the exception of things that are more, fanciful, with almost startlingly accuracy. Mm-hmm. It's like oh my god! Like I saw someone like recreate Storm's cosplay, some of the recreated Monets, and I was just like there was a guy who recreated Sinks. I was like, he had the jacket literally perfect. Yeah. Someone did Colossus, and I was like, oh my god, like dude, this is right off the page. I've been
wearing the Professor X around the house. That has been my go-to.
I can see you in that.
Yeah.
Dude, you got the helmet and every dude. That would be.
I've been doing it. I thought about doing a wardrobe change halfway through this, but I decided not to.
Yeah. I did get suited up. I figure this one's at Mars, so it's like, what's the wardrobe on Mars? I don't know yet. We got to watch.
Wear something red.
I know. I could have done that at least. What do you guys think? Final thoughts on the event, on where things are going, things we didn't cover or talk about today? Any big stuff? Verno, I'll start with you. Anything you want to make sure we get to?
I would like you guys to notice that I have an Occupy Mars shirt on.
You nailed
and tell me how cool it is. That is my final thought.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's pretty much it. I'm really looking forward to seeing Duggan and Pepe Larraz on their X-Men. I have no idea what to expect out of that run, but I'm very excited for it, honestly.
Have you read I didn't know this until they got announced. They were on Uncanny Avengers during Duggan's run on Uncanny, kind of set during the Secret Empire time period. Because I was like, I'll admit, like I had no knowledge of Pepe Larraz as an artist until House and Powers. And what I've realized since is like he was very much around in the Marvel Comics landscape. He did like 7 or 8 issues with Duggan on Uncanny Avengers, which are really like going back. I'm like, yeah, Pepe Larraz rules. I'm like, how was I sleeping on these? I think it's because they were a part of like the story wasn't a big moment, and I wasn't super high on Secret Empire, and some of it's tied into that, So it's just like, but it's interesting to go back and read those and kind of see what they were doing circa 2016, 2017. And then the other Larraz book is Kanan, The Last Padawan, if you're a Star Wars Rebels fan, it's actually one of the
Oh,
first Star Wars
yeah.
books. Pepe Larraz is on that too, and I'm like, what?
That's-
Like, I had no
I
idea.
picked that one up recently because I've got the trade and I loved it when it came out, but
Yeah.
I didn't know who Pepe Larraz was at the time.
Yeah,
I opened it up and instantly I was like, oh, Pepe Larraz. Yeah, he's incredible, man. I'm really curious to see how many issues consecutively he'll do because
right.
I would assume just looking at his art, it takes him longer to draw a page than it takes someone with a less detailed style.
Yeah.
Clearly. So
Yeah.
we'll see about that. I really hope he can do a majority of the issues consecutively.
Right. Same.
Yeah. I honestly don't. I can't remember where I originally stumbled across Pepe Larraz. It wasn't in House of X though.
He was
But
doing
somewhere-
covers for X-Force just prior. to-
Right. I think that might have been where it was from. And then and for whatever reason my brain just kind of went like, "Oh yeah, you've always been seeing this. This is
Yeah.
and there's also not just that, but there between Pepe Larraz, RB Silva, and Jorge Jimenez and so many other various and sundry artists that we have scattered across Marvel and DC and the Indies and whatnot. Like honestly, I'm just like, oh my god, this is like I just see the art. I'm just like, dude, what's going on here? But Pepe Larraz has a style that just I honestly don't know how they're going to keep him on this book.
Right.
I have no idea. I'm actually kind of scared
Right?
for this book after 10 issues because it's like it was with Children of the Atom. I think it took 2 or 3 issues before they switched from Bernard Chang to was it Paco Medina? I think is doing it now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. I felt the same way about Lionel Francis Yu on some books. I was like, they're not gonna keep.
He was pretty consistent.
So long. It's like, nah, they kept him on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want Pepe Larraz to hang around, but it's like it's one of those deals. If this X-Men title, if this is the one that they're gonna go, we want to go 50 issues with this. I'm like, you gonna hang on, Pepe? You got you gonna stick around for this?
Yeah.
Are we gonna kind of spell you every now and again, like every 5 or 6 issues, we spell you out, bring in somebody else, and like, hey, RP, come in and handle this for me.
Right.
That would be
run
if
about
you're going
2
to
issues.
switch. If you want to pepper in some RB Silva in between him, give it that Hoxpox feel, that would be a very good fit. That would work.
Yeah. Hashtag free RB. Hashtag free
Yes.
RB Silva. Let's get him back in the X line. I think that would be great. We got a good question, I think, to end things with here in the super chat. And again, thanks so much to everybody who's been hanging out, chatting, providing questions. Super fun to be able to do these live and have people hop on and listen to his chatter. But we got the question here: will Mystique set Moira X on fire again in Inferno? Ernie, let's start with you. Will Moira be set ablaze?
Man, I actually kind of hope I don't know if she'll be successful, but I think she'll try.
Yeah. Right.
I think she will try. Like it's something that I feel because that's too strong a callback to House of X to not put into motion.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm gonna say at the very least she's gonna try.
Okay. I like it.
Whether she's successful or not is a whole other story.
I think she's just going to get singed. You know
We'll
what? You know what
singe.
just popped in my mind? I think it'd be an interesting thing to happen in Inferno is for Mystique to die at the end of it. And then we have to make the decision, okay, are we going to bring back Mystique? Where does she fall on the resurrection queue?
That raises some troubling ethical dilemmas from a Chroma's perspective, because now you've got no precogs, no clones, no mean mystiques. You start getting
Wait.
fast and loose with that, yeah.
Do you bring her back and then just put her in the hole?
Right.
Oh, brutal.
Like resurrect her just to put her in the hole with Sabretooth?
Oh God, that's another thing I hope. I would love, like, say Inferno issue 1. First thing we get is Mystique breaking Sabretooth out of the hole.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna
Let's
happen.
get Mystique loose or Sabretooth loose on the island.
I think that's likely in Inferno for sure. I mean, I got to give shouts to Celine. Made a big X-Corp appearance today. Shouts to Celine for never being put on trial for murdering tons of people in the Ta-Nehisi Coates, Captain America. Somehow skirted that, was never put on trial, and is just hanging out on Krakoa living her best life.
See, no, what you don't understand is those are redacted. That's a redacted file. That thing's been sealed shut.
Nobody knows about it except like Shuri
We don't talk.
and Sharon Carter, and
Yeah.
and they're not on Krakoa. So yeah, Celine is
say
all good. Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks everybody for listening. This was a blast. Really appreciate the questions and the contributions here in the chat. You can find. I'll let you guys do it. Verno, where can people find you?
First of all, go check me out. The Cerebros, Comics and More. I do weekly non-spoiler reviews, come out every Wednesday morning or Thursday morning on a whole bunch of books, and have awesome guests like you two on occasionally, and we talk comics. And if you want to follow me, do it on Instagram at Cerebros or on Twitter at TCerebros.
Perfect. Ernie, where should people look for you?
You can find me on YouTube. YouTube.com/blurred without fear. I'm always there. Even when I'm not. I can also be found on the social medias. Honestly, it just is easy. If you just look up Blur Without Fear, you'll find me. My SEO is mostly on point. But no, Blurred minus Fear on Twitter, and I'm not really active on Facebook or Instagram, so I'm going to be brutally honest. If you hit me up there, you're kind of talking to a brick wall at that point. But Twitter is probably the easiest place to get a hold of me.
Cool. Awesome. And I'm Dave. You can find my stuff at comicbookherald.com, at Comic Book Herald on the socials, and of course the Comic Book Herald YouTube channel, where I do videos like this, Krakin Krakoa, weekly with all of the good X-Men comics. And I've been doing these casual Krakoas live, basically, kind of like this, but just myself talking X-Men comics and theories the day of, which people have seemed to be enjoying live, which has been fun. It's fun to hop on after reading the books and just pretend like I actually have people who want to talk comics with me the day they come out that don't live at the shop, like that's nice. So it works for me.
You guys are officially, you and the people that join me on the show are the only people in the world that I know that read comic books. That is it. So no real life comic book conversations ever happening over here.
No, it's one of my favorite things about doing Comic Book Herald is like finding communities of people who actually enjoy talking about comics. It's a blast. I love it. So thanks so much, guys. Thanks everybody for listening, and